So, as I said, my name's Raina Ogren, and I'm pleased to introduce this first session, Setting the Scene and Foundation Building. I'd like to welcome Mr. Danny Vadasz, who is the CEO of the Health Issues Centre, the peak consumer health advocacy body in Victoria. The Health Issues Centre's core work is to advocate for consumer aspirations and perspectives in health and medical research, public policy development and health service delivery. Under Danny's leadership, the Centre has focused on ensuring that the voices of the seldom heard, structurally disadvantaged communities are an integral and indispensable part of the Health Issues Centre Consumer Participation Framework. So I'd like to welcome Danny, who will present on social connection and wellbeing as voiced by older Australians.
Thanks very much, Raina. I think we're beginning with a video, if I'm not incorrect. So I'll do my introductory presentation perhaps after we've seen the video.
Being alone is just being by yourself, and you might quite enjoy your own company and freedom to do, what you like. But being lonely is when it starts. You feel sad because you haven't seen anyone or you're missing people. It's hard to put yourself out there. Then I became ill, so that was difficult, and then losing my licence just finished everything really.
I live by myself, but I wouldn't say I'm lonely. I'm alone most of the time, but I'm not lonely.
My husband died 25 years ago, so I've been really lonely since then. Yeah, I live with my daughter and my granddaughter, and my daughter lives in the garage downstairs. I've been there for 10 years, and she's lived with me for 7 years, and she has never been upstairs and had a coffee with me.
Where I live, it's just 4 units in a body corporate, and you never see anyone.
The neighbour on my right, if she's not up, her kitchen blind isn't up by 9:30. I go in and see if she's all right. I have a young Asian couple living on my left. If my bedroom blinds aren't up by 9:30, they ring.
I get up in the morning, I make a box of sandwiches, and I go and feed my friend. He's usually, he's got health issues, and then some of his friends come along, and then we pray, and we get along fine.
Croydon, well, I live there, but I've never belonged there. I relate everything back to the Donvale days.
Because I'm not the sort of person who can approach people, a bit shyer. People didn't go out of their way to approach me. When you come to a smaller town, you're actually, not a local. That sort of made it, I didn't realise that it'd be as bad as it is.
I think it's a state of mind. You're in the house, and when one partner, whether you're male or female, your family have gone, they've left the nest, you start to feel, and then if you lose your partner, it's always there. So you're in four walls and you can't see a way of getting out, and you don't make the effort, and nobody tries to get you out of there. I feel that I contribute to the community, I'm a good neighbour, and that if you're in trouble, I'm the one you'll turn to.
I'm old man. I've got a lot to be grateful about.
I only was able to come here because I had a diagnosis and a disorder, and then I got an aged care assessment, and which it's only on the interim stage now. I'm still waiting for the package to come through, but somewhere along the line I got referred to here, to Golden Wattle Club. So that's been a big help. So if I hadn't have had that assessment, I don't think I would be here today.
Oh, what I enjoy very much is talking over the mobile phone. I can talk with my granddaughter in Queensland. I can talk with a granddaughter in New South Wales. I now learn how to use a mobile phone, and I enjoy it very much.
Now, last night I had a grandson and his fiancée visit, and then his very tall comes and just grabs me and wraps his arms around me, and how blessed am I.
Sunday and Wednesday are good, because Sunday my daughter takes me down to Eastland about lunchtime, and then she goes home, does what she wants to do on a Sunday, and then she comes to pick me up, and she meet her in the supermarket down at Eastland at about 5 o'clock, and we do our shopping together, and she takes me home, and that's my treat day as well. That's the only time I see anybody except coming here.
I volunteer at this armchair exercise group, and the one thing that frustrates me is people saying, I can't do that, I'm 75, or I can't do that because I'm 62. And I've always said I've been older than them, and said if I can do it, you can try. And I think people just need a little bit of a push.
Hi everybody, thank you for allowing me to participate in today. Feel very privileged to be able to make a contribution. And I will say, in the first instance, for those who've never heard of us, Health Issues Centre is Victoria's peak consumer health body, and we believe our role in conferences like this is to bring the consumer voice into the room, and I believe that video that we just shared does that in a very poignant way. So our work is based right across the health sector. We work with all the major stakeholders, and we work in the policy area, we work in the research area, and most importantly, we work in conducting social research, which is probably a slightly fancy way of saying that we spend our time having conversations with consumers. And it's those conversations that really generate the insights that we have, particularly around issues around isolation and loneliness. A lot of our work in the last few years has been in the aged care sector, and that's varied from being involved in the development of advanced care directive legislation in Victoria, voluntary assisted dying, palliative care, and a variety of other initiatives. And in the last couple of years, we have particularly turned our attention to this whole question of isolation, loneliness and its consequences. In terms of the way we do our work, I mentioned that it's a sort of a social research approach. We actually call our model of social research social listening, because it really does depend extremely heavily on simply listening to what consumers tell us. So our methodology is one of initiating conversations, but really allowing the conversations to lead us. And the conversations, as you can see, can be by way of video, as we just saw, can be by way of interaction through social media, or it can be through face-to-face consultations. So, you know, we will go to a Sunday market in a rural township so that we can encounter the people that we want to speak to and enable them to tell us their stories in what we consider to be their comfort zone rather than our comfort zone. And the conversations we have tend to be fairly generic, because we don't want to lead the conversation. We want people to lead the conversation for us. So, for instance, one of the subjects that we looked at on a project that we conducted in Gippsland a couple of years ago was to look at what were the barriers to ageing that people felt that they were going to encounter as they went through their later years of life. And so we asked the question of the local community, what is it that you find difficult about ageing? And interestingly, the feedback that we got actually caused us to slightly change the way in we perceived the questions of isolation and loneliness, because the primary responses we got were a little bit more than just about the issues of social connectedness. So here's a sample of some of the feedback we got when we said to people, it's not easy getting old, but tell us what you find difficult about it. So people would talk about not being taken seriously, people underestimating what older people can do and achieve. Or another consumer would say to us, I hate getting old because people treat you like you don't know what you're talking about, like you're getting senile. Or that they felt that they were being made to feel unnecessary or irrelevant by younger people other than family, even when at 76, as they said, you're in a voluntary committee positions. Or they talk about not being listened to, being dismissed as being irrelevant or being invisible. So what became clear to us through the exercise was isolation and loneliness, and this was reinforced in the video we just saw, is not just about aloneness. It is about identity, it is about sense of purpose, it is about having a meaningful life. One of the primary takeouts that I got out of that video was hearing about people talking about being alone but not being lonely, and yet other people talking about cohabiting and still feeling very, very lonely. That's a terribly poignant story about the woman who claimed to have been cohabiting with the daughter for 7 years and never shared a cup of coffee. So it taught us that social isolation and loneliness is a very complex thing, and it's incredibly intertwined with a notion of self-worth, with a notion of being valued, being respected, and feeling that people have a contribution to make. So I mentioned before that apart from running conversations, we also work in the policy space. And it's been my good fortune in the last year and a half to be part of a Department of Family Fairness and Housing initiative, which was the establishment of a senior Victorian advisory group under the Commissioner for Senior Victorians, Gerard Mansour. And one of Gerard's, I think, great accomplishments in the last year or so has been to conduct research and produce a report titled Aging Well in a Changing World, which I've got here on the slide as reference. And that's a report that once again is based importantly on conversations with people. In fact, the report is based on conversations, whether through social media or face-to-face conversations with 5,000 Victorians. And some of the important takeouts of that report are that 42% of the people spoken to can only think about the future with a lot of concern. 41% feel lonely often, or at least some of the time. 22% have none or little of the enjoyment and pleasure that they want out of life. 21% have none or little of the love or friendship that they want, and 21% have none or little of the my screen is blank. You can read that for yourselves. So it paints a fairly bleak picture that a lot of Victorians are dealing with, and a bleak perception of what life ahead presents them. Interestingly, though, the report also, and just having problems with my pointer, also identified the key attributes of ageing well. And once again, this was insights taken from the conversations of those 5,000 people. So it actually defined 8 different contributing factors to ageing well. And you'll see if you go backwards from 8, 8 is about mobility, 7 is about ensuring that you've got good health support and services, 6 is about safety and security. But the next 5 all touch in one way or another on aspects of isolation, loneliness and meaningfulness. So people talking about being in touch with a changing world, being connected to friends, family and society, feeling respected and respectful, feeling that life has purpose and meaning, and maintaining a positive attitude. So I think it really strongly reinforces the strong connection between physical and cognitive health, mental health and overall well-being. The committee that I spoke of consists of a large range of organisations all working in the health sector. So there's a very diverse and comprehensive set of perspectives represented at the advisory committee. And one of the exercises that it was given early on was to talk about or to nominate what people felt were the key barriers and enablers to ageing well in Victoria. And you'll see from there, this is a précis of the 15 or 16 major points that were raised. But the number one consensus barrier or enabler related to improving social connectedness. So there was a real consensus that being connected, and I would add being connected for purpose as well as simply for socialisation and enjoyment, was a key, if not the key element in ensuring that older people could lead productive and happy lives. I won't take up any much more time than this, other than to say it's our conclusion at Health Issues Centre from all the various pieces of research projects and conversations we've had, that you could basically say that there are 4 key elements that we should be focusing on in terms of ensuring the optimal quality of life for older people in Victoria. One is there's a need for support, whether it's medical support, whether it's support with domestic services, whether it's support simply in terms of emotional well-being and reinforcement. Feeling supported is a key element of a happy life. The second thing is connectedness, and connectedness is a multifactorial thing. It's not simply about social connection. One of our key findings in another research project we did was the increasing challenge of the digitisation of services society for older people. People talk about the digital divide, and it's certainly the case that a large proportion of people who are on the wrong side of digital divide are older people. People who either can't afford connectedness, can't afford smartphones, or find the whole idea of a digital communication system just too incomprehensible or difficult to take up as being their primary means of connecting with the world. The third thing relates to what I mentioned before, and that is this notion of a meaningful life, feeling valued, feeling respected, feeling important, and maintaining a sense of self-respect. And then the fourth element, of course, is around security and safety, whether that's housing, whether that's protection from elder abuse, whether that's financial security. All of those elements go towards a feeling of safety and well-being. So I think today's session, which is obviously focusing on the questions of connectedness, although I think there is a significant overlap in terms of social connectedness with that issue about meaningful life and value, and also with that sense of being supported. In fact, we're probably addressing 3 of the four core pillars today. I would simply commend that we continue to talk to older people. We certainly find out that every time we go out with our predetermined assumptions as to what older people think and feel, we come back having to revise those notions. So these conversations like today, and the conversations we have with people who can tell us about their lived experience, are absolutely vital to informing our work and our understanding of the subject. So thanks for the opportunity of that short snapshot, and I hope the video in particular helps to set the scene for a constructive conversation today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Danny. You beautifully set the scene for us to be able to progress on and focus on what matters to the community members that we're wanting to support to live a well and full life. So thank you, Danny.